4 college football playoff first-round games, 4 outcomes by at least 2 scores. 2 of those were outright blowouts in State College and Columbus, a third was a dud made closer with 2 late touchdowns in South Bend, and a fourth in Austin featured our only suspenseful fourth-quarter moments. Thank you, Clemson. Here in Columbus, the Buckeyes left us wondering a couple of things after a 42-17 drubbing of Tennessee. Perhaps they are. After all, no other college roster is more talented, as they reminded us Saturday night in capping college football's first ever slew of on-campus playoff games. Let's take a look at how ugly this got so quickly. Ohio State's first punt came with 4 minutes left in the second quarter. Tennessee's first pass completion came 6 minutes into the second quarter. Suddenly, it was 21-0 and the more than 25,000 Tennessee fans who made the journey north were left angry and shivering in wind chills of below 20 degrees. The Buckeyes 11-2 showed what they can do when they're cooking, and, boy, were they cooking. By cooking, we mean targeting 2 of the most explosive and talented receivers in the country. Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka tore through the Vols for 11 catches and nearly 200 yards. Toss in an Ohio State defensive front that swarmed first-year starter Nico Yamaliva, and the Buckeyes were well on their way to a win that should lower the heat on the Ryan Day pressure cooker, from boiling to less boiling. Afterward, even Day acknowledged that he and the coaching staff called Saturday's game more aggressively than that last outing here against Michigan. "You're defined by the way you handle adversity in life," he said. To see the way they responded, they had a look in their eye. Up next, a rematch against Big Ten champion Oregon in the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day, a glorious matchup of a team with college football's best resume against a team with college football's most talented roster. Last time they met, back in October, the Ducks won 32-31 on a last-second finish in a thriller in Eugene. Whether these two should be meeting again so early in a 12-team playoff is certainly a question worth pondering. But, alas, that's what the format giveth. Instead of seeding teams based on the CFP Selection Committee's rankings, the format calls for the 4 highest-ranked conference champions to be seeded numbers 1 to 4, a rule that, while understandable as an incentive for league champs, creates unbalanced seeding. For instance, the committee's number 6 ranked team, Ohio State, was seeded 8th and now is pitted against the top seed in the quarterfinals. Look for the format to undergo changes, potentially starting with this very seeding rule that grants byes to only conference champions, as explained in this story last week. The ACC got knocked out in the first round, its champion downed by the SEC's runner-up and its runner-up crushed by the Big Ten's runner-up. If you're debating conference strength, those results should be helpful. The Big Ten's third-best team took down the SEC's third-best team in Columbus. And Notre Dame quite easily handled the Big Ten's fourth-best team. In all, the winners scored 145 points and the losers 68. All higher seeds and home teams won. This doesn't necessarily mean these teams, SMU and Indiana, in particular, should have missed the playoff field. Perhaps it only means that, in college football at least this year, the separation between those great teams and those good teams is a wider gap than we first realized. This isn't completely new. Don't you remember all those CFP semifinals the last decade? 14 of the 20 semifinal matchups resulted in outcomes of at least 2 scores. 8 of those were at least 3 touchdown blowouts. It happens. But what it does tell us, as someone here in the Ohio Stadium press box whispered to this writer, maybe this will show everyone that we shouldn't expand anymore. 14 teams? 16? Maybe not?